Hi, and welcome back to Get Fit Guy. I'm your host, Kevin Don, and this week I thought it would be fun, since we're kind of at the totally arbitrary point of a new year, to see if I could make a case for you in 2024, avoiding as many fads as possible and sticking with the training basics. Now, I see there being three main obstacles to progress. Firstly, being distracted by shiny new hype. Secondly, historical experiences. And thirdly, correlation where it doesn't belong or doesn't exist. Now, as someone who trains clients myself, both remotely and in person, by the way, shameless plug for myself, but if you would like remote coaching to work together on your goals or have some kind of movement assessments, please reach out. I'm always quite surprised that in almost 18 months of being the Get Fit Guy, I've actually only had 2 emails about people inquiring about being trained. And both of those people never got back to me. So anyway, I can tell you that being a trainer can be stressful because your clients are on a conveyor belt, right? It's like their training lifetime. At some point, due to life circumstances, it could be saving up to buy a new house or adding another child to the family, something changing. Maybe you just get really bored with the training and you want to go do something else. You want to take up a new sport or something like that. Clients are kind of on this conveyor belt and eventually they drop off the end. So you're either having to put new clients on at the start of the conveyor belt faster than the old ones are dropping off, or you have to find ways to extend the lifespan of each client. And for many personal trainers and coaches, lifespan extension equals bamboozlement, right? Because if you can continually put clients into this confused state of exhaustion or post-workout pain, then you create this false impression that the training's really working. And that's because most people correlate pain with workout quality. Now, as we've discussed before, humans are in this preferred state, which is called homeostasis. Homeostasis is basically where you've adapted to your current environment and the demands it places upon you. For you to get stronger, fitter, or more beefcake, you have to change your environmental demands. New demands from the environment will break homeostasis and force an adaptation so that you can return to homeostasis. The problem with crazy workouts that differ by degree and kind each time you walk into the gym is you cannot possibly make an environmental adaptation. Imagine you went to work every day and were given a totally new role that you'd never seen before. You'll never master your role and will continually underperform at your job. Same. So, as boring as it may be, to adapt and therefore actually improve, one absolutely must do the same things again and again at greater loads, greater intensity, or greater complexity each week. Think about getting a suntan. You don't go out on day 1 of your vacation and lie in the sun for an hour. Well, not unless you want to look like you've been bungee jumping into an active volcano. You spend a small amount of time to develop a base tan and then increase exposure across the course of the vacation. That's adaptation. And if you want to get stronger, you're going to have to lift weights at loads heavier than the week before. Use force production as your metric for improvement. If 6 weeks ago you were squatting 135 and now you're squatting 155, guess what? You got stronger. We know this because you're creating more force. If 6 weeks ago you could stand on 1 foot on a Bosu ball for 10 seconds and now you can do it for 30, that isn't a metric about getting stronger. Who cares? Tricks are for the circus. Now, next up is historical experiences. So, in 2020, I was invited into a professional soccer team here in the UK that were operating in the Premier Division. I met with their trainers there, and then I asked them to show me the training programs. The strength and conditioning coach went away and came back with a single dog-eared piece of paper and put it down on the table. I looked at it and said, okay, which player's training program is this? And, where are the others? And the answer was, this was the training plan for all players. And what blew my mind was, even at a professional level, the goalkeepers, the defenders, the midfielders, the wingers, the strikers were all doing the exact same thing. And to me, this was insane. How on earth could athletes with totally different physical demands be on all the same training programs? And as an added piece of information, the training program they were on didn't even make sense. If you're a soccer player, why would you be hitting a boxing bag? Why were they doing this? And the answer is because, that's the way we've always trained. So history was standing in the way of progress and common sense. Another anecdote about the same thing. When I lived in Hong Kong, I used to run on a closed road called Bowen Road twice a week. It ran from central Hong Kong to Happy Valley along kind of what's called the mid-levels. And it was a beautiful run, amazing view, because you were running above the level of the skyscrapers. So you were just looking down on this incredible metropolis as you were running. One day I remember someone, I will perhaps say they didn't look like a runner, absolutely scorched it past me, super fast. And I thought, okay, there's no way they're going to sustain that pace. I'll be catching them up very, very soon. False. Literally never saw them. A few days later, though, I did see them and I had a chat with them. And their history was that they'd been massively overweight. They started walking Bowen Road, and then they started jogging Bowen Road, and they lost weight, and that worked for a while. But eventually their weight loss stalled, so they just ran more and more and more. But what happened was they were now just adapting to running, but not losing any weight. So we're in a situation where I wanted to be able to run at their pace, and they wanted to look like me. Now, because running had already worked for them at some point, they didn't see any need to do anything else or anything different. They were being blocked from the progress they wanted to make by their own historical experience. So don't let what worked for you in the past stop you from making progress today. Always try to be objective about things and not subjective. And finally, correlation. So I have a bunch of people that I know who are fitness influencers or athletes in sports that are not swamped with TV and sponsorship money. So they need to earn dollars through discount codes or save money that they may otherwise spend on buying protein powders or meal prep or vitamins by promoting a company that gives them free stuff. Often, you'll see Instagram posts noting that it's a paid partnership, but this doesn't mean that people pay this any heed. In fact, I know several people who are making some serious coin from promoting something that they've told me they hate and do not use. So if you correlate the claimed workout of your favorite athlete or influencers with you being able to perform the way they do or look the way they do, that's inherently fallacious. Most likely, they don't use the products they're promoting or do the workouts they're promoting. And if they do, it's only because those products were provided to them for free. Now, if they had the money, they'd probably be using a different product. Like, have you ever been to a gym class and seen anyone in that class that looks like the people on the poster? Nope, me neither. And yet, the people that are in the class have been doing that class 5 times a week for 2 years. So why don't they look like the people in the picture? Well, the answer is because the models in the pictures don't do those classes for their training. It's a false correlation. So, again, try to make sure you're being objective about things. Don't falsely correlate. Don't be held back by your own historical interpretations of reality. And also just don't get distracted by shiny new things. Sadly, you have to do the things that are basic and simple. And finally, sometimes I feel like I'm going to get fired from presenting this podcast because listeners are going to end up emailing in and say, like, dude, why do you literally just say the same things every week? Well, the answer is because I'm not here to sell you a new fad. I'm here to reinforce things that do make a difference to fitness, with fitness being the absence of disease in an organism. So sorry, not sorry, I'm not going to change, because complexity for complexity's sake is not a training methodology, it's a business model. Oh, and also I've had a few emails come in about, could I discuss the health benefits of hot tubs and what temperature might be optimal for a hot tub? And I am on it, and I will answer this question next week. Pinky promise. So if you have a question, want to say hi, or are interested in some remote coaching, email me at getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com and I could read out your email on the show. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, please. And remember that Get Fit Guy is a Quick and Dirty Tips podcast thanks to the team at Quick and Dirty Tips: Morgan Christensen, Holly Hutchins, Davina Tomlin, Cameron Lacey, and Brannon Getchis. I'm your host, Kevin Dunn. If you have a question for me, leave me a voicemail at 510-353-3104. Send me an email, getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com. For more information about the show, visit quickanddirtytips.com or check out the show notes in your podcast app.